On Thanksgiving, my parents called me useless and told me to leave. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just nodded, walked out the door, and tried not to cry as I reached my car. The air was sharp with cold, the kind that makes your chest ache with every breath. But it wasn't the wind that hurt. It was the way my mother's words echoed inside me tight, final, like a slammed door. I thought that would be the end of my Thanksgiving. I never expected someone to follow me. But just as I gripped my keys, trying to hold myself together, I heard footsteps. I turned and there he was. My grandpa. He didn't say much. He just walked up, pressed a worn envelope into my hand, and looked me in the eye. "Read it when you're ready," he whispered. I opened it right there in the cold. And the truth inside shattered everything I thought I knew about who I was. Growing up, I always knew I was the extra piece. My parents, Carla and Martin Collins, never said it outright, but I could feel it, in the way my name was always said with a sigh, in the way family pictures never quite centered me, and in the way they doted on my younger brother Ethan, like he was the sun they orbited, and I was just there, a shadow they couldn't get rid of. They adopted me when I was 3. At least, that's what they told me. I don't remember much before their big suburban house in Golden, Colorado, except vague flashes of soft music and a hand stroking my hair. I used to think it was just a dream. Growing up, I tried. God, I tried. I got straight A's. I joined the debate team. I volunteered at the local shelter on weekends. Every birthday, I made cards for Carla by hand. I ironed Martin's shirts before his meetings. I once learned how to change the oil in the car because he mentioned it offhandedly and then he didn't even notice. Ethan once got a C in chemistry and still got a new iPhone. I graduated valedictorian and got a lukewarm clap at dinner. "You think you're so special just because you read books," Carla muttered that night as she cleared the plates. "You wouldn't survive a day in the real world." That became a recurring theme in my life. Don't expect too much, Avery. Don't act like you belong. I used to cry at night, pressing a pillow to my face so they wouldn't hear. But the older I got, the quieter my pain became. I learned to carry it like a folded note in my back pocket, always there, always close, but unreadable to anyone else. And yet, no matter how many times I felt like giving up on them, some part of me still hoped. I still showed up every holiday. I still texted on birthdays. I still remembered Carla's favorite pie and Martin's habit of drinking black coffee with a single ice cube. Maybe, just maybe, one day they'd see me. That hope is what brought me home this Thanksgiving. I baked a pumpkin pie from scratch the night before, packed it carefully in a carrier, and wore the navy blue dress Carla once said didn't look awful on me. I knocked on their front door at exactly 3:00 p.m., the time she'd texted. When Carla opened it, her eyes scanned me like I was a neighbor dropping by uninvited. No smile, no hug. "You're early," she said flatly, stepping aside. That was my welcome. And somehow, I still walked in, pie in hand, heart in pieces, telling myself that maybe, this time, it would be different. The dining room looked picture perfect. Golden charger plates, burgundy napkins folded into little fans, and a roasted turkey sitting at the center of the table like a trophy. Carla always went all out for appearances. Holidays were about presentation, not connection. I offered the pie. "I made it myself," I said, trying to sound cheerful. Carla took it with 2 fingers, like it was something she didn't quite want to touch. "Well, we already have dessert," she muttered, motioning to a store-bought pumpkin cheesecake on the counter. Martin barely glanced up from his phone as I walked in. "Hey, Avery," he said, without looking at me. Ethan, lounging on the couch, didn't even bother to acknowledge me. I tried not to let it sink in. I sat at the edge of the couch, back straight, hands folded in my lap like a guest at someone else's celebration. They chatted about Ethan's new gym routine, Carla's office drama, Martin's golf buddy who bought a new cabin in Aspen. I nodded, smiled, chimed in once or twice. No one responded. When dinner was served, I helped carry dishes to the table, even though no one asked. I made sure the turkey was sliced cleanly, the gravy stirred smooth, the napkins set evenly. Like maybe effort could substitute love. And for one quiet moment, as everyone took their seats and bowed their heads for a rushed obligatory thanks, I let myself hope. This is the moment, I thought. We'll eat together. We'll talk. They'll ask me how I've been. Maybe even say they're glad I came home. But 5 minutes in, it unraveled. Ethan scoffed when I mentioned I'd applied for a promotion at my logistics firm. Still at that warehouse job? He said, smirking. Thought you'd have moved on by now. I manage a team of 20, I replied quietly. We just secured a contract with 3 regional carriers. Martin cut in. That's nice, but don't get ahead of yourself. Stability is more important than ambition. Carla sipped her wine. You've always had your head in the clouds, Avery. Maybe that's why nothing you do ever really sticks. My fork froze midair. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me, her eyes cool and steady. It means you try too hard to be something you're not. And frankly, I'm tired of pretending you're part of this family when all you bring is tension. The room fell silent. Even Ethan looked uncomfortable. Martin said nothing. Carla just kept cutting her turkey. My chest felt like it was caving in. I just wanted to spend Thanksgiving with you. Carla stood. Then maybe you should have learned your place by now. You're not wanted here, Avery. Not today. Not really ever. I stood slowly, feeling the blood drain from my face. My hands trembled as I grabbed my coat. No one stopped me. No one even looked up. And as I walked out the door into the biting wind, I realized this had never been home. The wind had picked up. Leaves scraped across the driveway like whispers behind my back. I clutched my coat tighter and kept walking, one slow step at a time, as if moving too fast might cause the dam behind my eyes to finally break. I reached my car, parked at the curb, an old, faithful Civic that still smelled like vanilla air freshener and resilience. My hand hovered over the door handle, but I didn't get in. Not yet. I needed a second to just stand there in the cold and pretend none of it happened, that I hadn't just been asked to leave a house I'd spent 24 Thanksgivings in. That the word useless wasn't still ringing in my head like a church bell in an empty town. I took a shaky breath. Maybe I should have said something, fought back, slammed the door, or broken a glass, or told Carla she was wrong that I mattered. But I didn't. I never had. I just walked away, like always. And just when I thought the silence was going to crush me, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, unmistakable, crunching the frostbitten grass behind me. I turned. And there he was, my grandfather Walter Collins. Wearing that old brown coat with the frayed collar, his scarf loosely knotted like he hadn't tried too hard but still showed up anyway. His silver hair was tousled from the wind, and his eyes, those deep-set eyes, shelled something I didn't recognize at first. Was it anger? No, not quite. It was sorrow. He stopped a few feet from me and studied my face for a long, quiet moment. I tried to smile, to act like I was fine. You heard? I asked, my voice breaking at the edges. He nodded. I heard. I looked away, ashamed. I didn't want to ruin dinner. Walter stepped closer and gently placed something into my hand. An envelope. It was old, creased at the edges, yellowing just slightly, with my name written on it in a slanted, unfamiliar script. Avery. What is this? I whispered, confused. He didn't answer immediately, just placed a steadying hand on my shoulder and said, You read it when you're ready, sweetheart, but maybe it's time you knew the truth. The truth? He nodded again, solemn. About where you came from, about what they never told you. I stared down at the envelope like it might burn me. It felt heavier than paper. It felt like a door. Walter's voice dropped low, kind but certain. I should have given it to you a long time ago. But today, when she called you useless, he paused, jaw tight. I knew it couldn't wait anymore. I looked up at him, stunned. Then I looked back at the envelope. And with trembling fingers, I opened it. The paper inside was soft with time, like it had been read, held, and folded again and again. There were 3 things: a photograph, a letter, and a folded piece of paper with handwriting so delicate it almost looked like a memory itself. I pulled out the photo first. It was of a young woman, early 20s, maybe, with wavy auburn hair, pale skin, and a soft, quiet smile. She was holding a baby in her arms. Her arms looked tired, but the way she looked at that child, it wasn't just love. It was aching love. Her eyes, green like sea glass in sunlight, were the same shape as mine. And suddenly, my breath caught in my throat. Is this? Walter stepped beside me, his voice gentle but trembling. Her name was Lillian Grace Monroe. The name struck a chord in me, not because I remembered it, but because some part of me recognized it. She's your mother, he continued. Your real mother. My knees nearly gave out. I leaned against the car, still clutching the envelope as though it might float away if I let go. The word mother had never fit quite right when I heard Carla say it. It had always sounded conditional. But now, this felt like the earth shifting under my feet. I don't understand, I said, my voice cracking. Carla told me I was adopted through the system, that there was no one, no history, nothing. Walter looked out toward the house for a moment, his jaw tightening. Then he looked back at me. She lied. His voice was calm, but I felt the fire beneath it. She and Martin were never supposed to adopt you permanently. They were supposed to be emergency guardians temporary, until Lillian could get back on her feet. But they had connections. Carla used them to gain full custody, behind Lillian's back. What? I whispered, the words barely able to form in my mouth. Walter nodded slowly. Lillian was young, just turned 19. She'd been disowned by her family after getting pregnant. The father left. She had no one. Except me. You're her father? I asked, heart thudding. He gave a soft smile. Yes. And your grandfather, by blood. Everything inside me twisted. The silence, the stares, the way Carla had never once called me her daughter, suddenly it all made sense. I wasn't hers, not in her eyes. I had never been. She fought for you, Walter added, voice shaking now. She begged them to let her stay in your life. But they moved, changed your name in the records. I lost track of you too for a few years. I only found out where you were when I saw a photo Carla posted years ago. You were in the background holding a tray of dishes at some family gathering. I recognized your eyes instantly. I opened the folded letter, hands trembling. Dear Avery, if you're reading this, then Walter found a way to give it to you. I've thought about this moment 1,000 times, and still, I don't know what to say. I was young when I had you, but I loved you more than anything in this world. I still do. They told me I wasn't good enough, that I had nothing to offer you, but I never gave up looking. I built a life, I found a home, but a part of me has always been missing. You. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope you'll believe this. I never abandoned you. You were taken from me. If you ever want to find me, I'm in Sedona. My door is open. Love always. Mom, Lillian. My eyes blurred with tears. For a moment, I couldn't see the letter at all, just the weight of every year I'd spent wondering what was wrong with me. And now, in my hands, the truth. It was never about me being unwanted. It was about someone else being silenced. I don't know what to do, I whispered. Walter placed his hand over mine, grounding me. You don't have to decide now, he said, but you needed to know, and you deserve to choose with the truth in front of you. I stared down at the photo of the woman who had once held me with that kind of fierce, gentle love, and I knew, deep down, something inside me had shifted forever. Walter didn't ask questions when I followed him to his truck. He just opened the passenger door, helped me in, and didn't say a word as we drove away from the house I no longer had to pretend was home. The heater buzzed softly. My hands were still clenched around the envelope, like it was the only thing tethering me to the moment. My heart kept replaying Carla's voice. You're not wanted here, Avery. I almost wanted to laugh now. She had no idea how true that was. She'd spent years reminding me I didn't belong, and for once, I realized she was right. I didn't belong. Because I was never hers. Walter's cabin was nestled at the edge of town, quiet and warm, with a fire already going in the stone hearth. He handed me a mug of cocoa, the kind with marshmallows, and let me curl into the blanket on the old leather couch without pushing conversation. I always wondered why I felt different, I said eventually, my voice small against the crackling fire. Even as a kid, it was like everyone else had a script, and I was always improvising. Walter sat in the armchair across from me. You weren't wrong. Carla and Martin, they didn't know how to love someone who didn't fit their version of perfect. I looked down into my cup. I spent so many years trying to earn love that should have been given freely. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. They didn't deserve you. But your mom, Lillian, she never stopped looking. She sent me letters every year on your birthday. I saved them all. My breath caught. Can I read them? Walter nodded. When you're ready. I stared at the envelope again, especially the photo. That woman, my mother, she looked nothing like Carla, and yet somehow everything about her felt familiar. Her soft hands, her gaze, her quiet strength. Things I saw in myself but never knew where they came from. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch with the blanket up to my chin, rereading Lillian's letter until I'd memorized every curve of her handwriting. And somewhere between midnight and dawn, something inside me cracked open. If I wasn't Carla's daughter, who was I, really? Was I Avery Collins? Was I Lillian's child? Was I both? Or neither? For the first time in my life, I didn't feel broken. I felt misplaced, like someone had placed me on the wrong shelf. But now, someone had finally walked in, dusted me off, and pointed to the label that had been there all along. I wasn't worthless. I wasn't forgotten. I was lost. But now, I was starting to be found. The sun had just started to rise, painting the edges of Walter's cabin in soft gold when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. Carla. I stared at the screen for a long time, letting it ring, unsure if I even owed her my ears anymore. But part of me, the part that still ached to be seen, pressed accept. Hello? There was silence on the other end, then a sharp inhale. Avery, where are you? Her voice was tight, not panicked, not motherly, just controlled. With Grandpa Walter, I said calmly. He gave me something. Another pause. I could hear the ice forming behind her words before they came. You shouldn't have taken that envelope. I blinked. Excuse me? That letter wasn't meant for you. Lillian gave up her rights years ago. You've built a life with us. You don't need to drag up the past. I sat up straighter on the couch. You told me I had no past. You told me there was nothing to find. I told you what was best for you, she snapped. You were too sensitive, always digging, always wanting more. We gave you structure. A chance. I felt the heat rise in my chest. A chance? You made me feel like a burden every day I lived under your roof. That's not fair, she said quickly. You were difficult. You cried too much. You asked too many questions. I stood now, pacing the floor of the cabin, my voice low but firm. I was a child. Silence. You knew she wanted me, didn't you? I asked. You knew Lillian never abandoned me. Her voice softened, but in the worst way, that manipulative, gentle chill she always used to end conversations. Sweetheart, that girl couldn't take care of herself. You would have ended up broken. I stopped pacing. Something in me snapped into place, not in anger and clarity. I already did end up broken, I said, but not because of her, because you taught me that love had to be earned, that I was never enough unless I was quiet, invisible, obedient. Avery, she began, but I didn't let her finish. Don't call me again, I said, my voice steady. I'm done chasing scraps. And I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not with fear, with adrenaline, with power. Walter stepped into the room, coffee mug in hand. He must have heard most of it, but he didn't comment. He just looked at me, really looked, and nodded. Proud of you, he said simply. I let the phone fall onto the couch cushion. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up to her. Not in bitterness, not to hurt her. Just to stop the cycle. To claim something of my own. The next morning, I packed a small overnight bag. I didn't know what I was expecting in Sedona. A hug, a locked door, silence. But I knew one thing. I couldn't go another year pretending I came from nowhere. Walter handed me a thermos of coffee and a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in wax paper. Old school. Thoughtful. Got her address right here, he said, sliding a slip of paper into my hand. You sure she still lives there? I asked. He smiled. She never moved. Said she wouldn't, just in case you ever came. Those words undid me a little. The road to Sedona was long and winding, carved through red rock and desert quiet. I let the silence keep me company as I drove, my thoughts louder than any playlist could compete with. I tried to imagine what Lillian would be like now. Did she think about me every day? Did she remember my first word? Did she cry on my birthday like I always did? Every mile brought more questions. And more fear. What if she was disappointed in me? What if she looked at me and saw all the damage Carla had left behind? The sun was high when the GPS finally said, "You've arrived." The house was modest, painted white with blue shutters, tucked behind a wild garden of desert flowers and wind chimes that whispered in the breeze. It didn't look like much, but it felt safe. I parked across the street and sat there for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. My heart thudded in my chest, not fast, but deep, like it had waited years for this moment. I stepped out of the car. The walk up to her door felt like 1,000 steps. every one of them filled with every version of myself. I had been the quiet girl, the invisible teen, the one who swallowed her pain. All of them walking with me now. I knocked. Once. Twice. Then the door opened. She stood there, older than the photo, but unmistakably her. The same eyes, the same softness around her mouth. She didn't speak at first, just looked at me, and I knew she knew. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes before either of us said a word. "Avery," she breathed. I froze. It was the first time someone said my name, and it felt real. I got your letter," I said. She nodded, her voice breaking. "I was hoping one day you would." And then, like the world had been holding its breath for 24 years, she reached forward and pulled me into her arms. Lillian didn't ask questions right away. She just led me inside with that same quiet grace I'd seen in the photo. Her house smelled like cinnamon and rosemary, the kind of scent that wraps around your shoulders like a blanket. The table was already set for two. "I wasn't sure," she said, motioning toward the second plate, "but I always set one, just in case." I sat down slowly, feeling the weight of what that small gesture meant. All these years, while I sat alone in my room or ate leftovers in silence, this woman-me mother had been saving a seat for me. The food was simple: roasted vegetables, mashed sweet potatoes, cornbread, and a tiny pumpkin pie she'd made from scratch. No turkey, no drama, no expectations. Just peace. We ate quietly at first, not because there was nothing to say, but because everything that needed to be said was too big to force. Finally, I asked, "Why did you name me Avery?" Lillian looked up, eyes soft. "Because it means ruler of the elves, but that wasn't the reason." She smiled faintly. "It was your great-grandmother's name. She raised me when my parents left. She was strong, quiet, thoughtful. I wanted you to carry her strength." I blinked back tears. All this time I thought my name was just something Carla picked. "No," she said gently. "That was mine. You were always mine." The silence stretched again, but it was no longer empty. It was sacred. Later that evening, we moved to the couch, curled up under an old quilt. She showed me photo albums, pictures of herself as a teenager, of my nursery before I was taken, of Walter holding me as a newborn with tears in his eyes. "I fought," she whispered, touching one photo of herself in a courtroom. "They said I was too young, too poor, but I never signed you away. Carla and Martin. They took something they didn't understand." "But you never stopped looking," I said. She shook her head. "Never." Outside, the wind rustled through desert trees. Inside, I felt something I hadn't known I was allowed to want: belonging. It didn't erase the pain. It didn't magically fix the years I spent doubting my worth. But it gave me a place to start again, a place built on truth, not silence. As we cleaned the plates together, I looked over at her and asked, "Can I come back? I mean, not just today. I'd like to know you." Lillian paused, then took my hand and squeezed it gently. "You don't have to ask. This is your home too." That night, I fell asleep in a small guest room with an old bookshelf, a window facing the stars, and a photo of us on the nightstand already framed. It was the first Thanksgiving I had ever felt full. Not because of food, because I was finally seen.